Is no money down possible?
100%, and I've got the proof of one. I've been in the estate agency for about 25 years, and then I've had enough. I've worked in 2 recessions. People have actually made a lot of money out of it. It was a great deal, 2 properties, 222,000. We didn't have to put a penny down. He lent us the money.
Hi, Kevin McDonald here, and welcome to the Progressive Property YouTube channel. I recently interviewed Vito Iannelli about his property journey, a former estate agent turned property investor, to share the differences between estate agency and property investing and why he needed to feel like he had to learn more about property to actually go from selling them to buying them for himself. You're going to absolutely love this episode, and I'll see you on the other side. Thanks for joining us, Vito.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, so really interesting this about estate agents, property investors, because a lot of people think that they should get their property investment advice from an estate agent because the estate agent is the person selling the house. So I'm going to get your thoughts on some of that in a few minutes. But before I get thoughts on that, what were you doing before you started to become the full-time sort of property investor? What was life like? What were you doing?
I had my estate agency. I had it for 17 years. I've been in the estate agency for about 25 years, and then I'd had enough.
Right. 17 years where you owned your own?
Yes.
And what, 8 years working for someone else?
That's correct, yes.
Right. And then after 25 years, you had enough of what?
I've been on the dark side
Right.
of property.
When was that?
Probably about 2015 onwards. I was actually starting to get a little bit tired of it. So I sold in 2018.
So 2015 you started thinking about it, and 2018 you sold it?
Yes. I had 6 months break,
Right.
and then I decided, what am I going to do? And that's when I thought, well, I still love property. It's still inside me.
Right.
And how can I sit on the other side of the fence now, really?
As an estate agent, did you really understand what buy-to-let property investment was?
All we understood was you had 25%, and you put 25% down, you can go and buy a property.
Right.
That's all really an agent knew. They did not know anything else about property investment and the different strategies.
And over 25 years as an estate agent, did you actually buy property?
We did, yes,
Yeah.
but not enough.
Not enough.
But when people started saying to me, you can go and buy a property with none of your own money, and there's different strategies, that's something we were never taught. We were just literally taught to go and value a property, put it on the market, and get the best price for the seller.
There was a lot of gaps.
A lot of gaps, yeah.
Now, having been years in estate agents, and you do hear about no money down,
Yes.
Is no money down possible?
100%, and I've got the proof of one as well.
We'll
I've
talk
actually
about
done.
that then
Yeah.
in a while.
Yeah.
So you came to Progressive.
Yes.
What year was that?
Came to Progressive in 2020, just a couple of months before lockdown.
Right, so perfect timing.
Yeah. At a Massopi in London.
For anyone listening, Massopi is Progressive's flagship 3-day event, which is multiple streams of property income, where you hear about lots of different ways to do property, from single-let buy-to-lets to serviced accommodation to deal packaging to the no money down techniques to commercial conversion, and lots of other stuff as well, like tax, marketing, systems, etc. So you went to multiple streams of property income in London. What did you decide to do then? I
decided to actually invest. You were on the stage that day.
I was.
And you were, and I thought, well, we want some of this.
I know what you thought. You thought if that idiot on stage could do this, anybody can.
You were great, and I just thought, yeah, I want some of this, and I was loving the strategies I was learning about, just sitting down, and I thought, yeah, there is another side, and that was it opened up my mind, and I think that's the important bit. Because being an estate agent, your mind is closed. So
what sort of stuff have you done?
So we've now got a serviced accommodation management business where we've got some of our own properties, and in total we've got 22 properties. Some that you own, some that you manage? Yes. The fact you manage them for other people, do you not feel like you're back to being the agent again? Not at all, not at all. What's the difference? The difference is we started off with rent-to-service accommodation. Yep. So it was the quickest way to actually get into it. It gave us good cash flow. Obviously there was a couple of bits there that could be purchased as well. But with the managing side, we knew everything about serviced accommodation. Yeah. We could actually advise the client correctly. And we felt confident, and we still do feel confident that we can actually go ahead and do that. It's completely different. I don't feel like an agent at all. I actually do feel like a property investor who's looking after my investors and looking after my landlords. Yeah. So it is completely different mindset. When you were in a estate agent, did you just sell houses or did you rent them? Did you do lettings? We did sales and rentals. Sales and rentals. Yeah. In my head, letting agency rentals, you're dealing with tenants and tenant issues and almost sometimes
tenant issues are not just property issues, but they can often be, dealing with the council, universal credits, etc. When you're managing serviced accommodation, you're not really dealing with tenants, are you?
No, we're dealing with guests.
Dealing with guests. So what's the big difference in your head between the two?
I think the biggest difference that you're dealing with guests, they pay before they stay. And after their stay's gone, they cannot stay in that property. They have to go. Even if they don't want to go, they actually have to go. The return is higher, serviced accommodation, that's what we're finding. And it gives the investor a better return on their investment as well, which is what we're all about.
And then you started to do deal packaging.
Yes.
What's deal packaging and how do you do that and what do you do?
Well, what it is, we offer a turnkey service, because we've got investors there who are cash rich but time poor. So they come to us and they say, do it all. And what we mean by that is we want you to find a property, we want you to furnish a property, photograph the property and manage the property.
Right.
And I just thought there's a gap here. And especially the fact that I had the little bit of agency practice, I could actually go and sit on the other side of the fence now and talk to these guys that people used to talk to me.
Do you do any type of deal packaging, or do you specialise in sort of finding deals for people who want to then run them as SAs so you can feed them into your management part?
That is probably our biggest part. And we started off with single sort of properties, but we've also been offered some blocks as well for the bigger investor.
Right. And then you mentioned a no money down deal.
Yeah.
Tell us about that. What's that?
I'm not just saying this because you're here, but if it wasn't for Progressive, I wouldn't have not had that no money down deal. I actually met somebody on one of the masterminds who introduced me to their seller, who was a tired landlord from London. He'd had enough of this property, he had a sitting tenant in there, he wanted out. And it was a great deal, 2 properties split into two blocks of 4 studios in there, and we purchased them for, am I allowed to say the figures?
Yeah.
222,000. The great thing about it, we didn't have to put a penny down. He lent us the money.
Right, so the vendor finance.
Vendor finance. He lent us the money over 3 years. It's only a year into the deal now anyway, at a really low interest. We then actually got bridging finance. Again, we didn't have to put any of our own money down to refurbish the properties. So 225, 150 probably for the refurbishment and the interest. And they're going to be revalued at about 550,000, which means that we can take all our money out and still have a little bit to take the wife on holiday.
So you'd have 25% profit.
But even better, we're making about £25,000 a year rent out of it as well.
When you say £25,000 a year rent, is that the rental income or is that the profit?
That's the profit.
Profit. From just one deal that you put no money into?
That's correct.
Right. How important, obviously you've come to Progressive and you've learnt and you've gained the knowledge around deal packaging and serviced accommodation and no money down and stuff. How important has been the people? So, and I don't mean the mentors and stuff, I mean the other delegates, the other Vitos, the other people that come here to learn as well. How important have they been to you on your journey?
They're the most important.
Yeah.
They're the most important because you're learning from them, you're networking with them, you become more confident with them as well because you're all talking the same language and you all want the same thing as well. So very, very important.
And without meeting another fellow student, you would not have been able to do this deal. You would never have known about this deal.
I would never have known about this deal.
And this is one of the things I talk a lot about in property. It's all about collaboration. And if you're sitting at home and trying to do property alone, reading a book or listening to a podcast like you are now, trying to gain all the knowledge, one of the key missing ingredients is people. You're not meeting people. You're not collaborating with people. You're not sharing stuff and passing things on to people. Because I hear a lot from people, well, if somebody finds a deal, why do they not keep it themselves? And why would somebody give a deal away, etc.? Give us a bit more insight into the thought process of this, of why would a deal packager sell a deal and not keep it themselves? And then why would a deal packager buy a deal and not find it themselves?
I think not every deal is going to fit the criteria that I want, and maybe it's location. Maybe we get offered a deal and it's not the right location that we actually operate in, so it may not work for us, so it's easy to sell. Then there'll be deals that do meet all the criteria and we know that there's margin in there, and we'll actually go ahead and do it, buy it ourselves. Right. So no other reason than that, to be honest with you, especially the fact that we're building our serviced accommodation business as well. The more that we can actually sell our investors, the more they're going to be wanting to manage their properties for us as well.
And I guess if you're finding deals, you could find 3, 4, 5 deals a week or a month or whatever it may be, and you're not going to be able to do them all yourself anyway. Rather than just walk away from the others, you just give it to somebody else and get a fee for it.
That's the nice thing about it, 100%.
Are you going to continue on doing the same thing for the next number of years, or are you going to look at doing additional things?
I've only just started.
Just starting?
I've only just started. I've seen there is another side to property, and I think that's what excites me. I've always loved property anyway, but I love it even more on this side of the fence. So we want to continue to grow in our SA management business. We want to continue to do our own acquisitions as well.
Yeah.
And that is through singles, but as well as actual blocks as well.
Now, you mentioned there a few times, you said we. So are you doing this alone, or who do you do it with?
I've got 2 partners.
Right.
I've got my daughter, Daniela. That's an interesting partnership, father and daughter. And she had 10 years hospitality experience working for the Hilton. So she's now gone full time into property with us. And then there's also Joanna Carr, who we actually teamed up with, who's also another serviced accommodation provider. And we do it together. So the 3 together.
How did you find Joanna? Where did you meet Joanna?
We found her in lockdown on through Progressive when we used to do the masterclasses through Zoom. We had some synergy as far as working in the same area, doing the same business. And ever since then, we've kept in contact. We set up a cleaning company together. And then now we've actually do the serviced accommodation business together.
Right, so again, another collaboration within the community.
100%.
Yeah.
By doing it that way as well, you build up that trust over a period of time that know that you can work together. I found that's really important.
Now, I'm going to chuck you under a bus here.
Thank you.
Because I know your daughter listens to this podcast. Well, I don't actually know that, but I'm hoping she does. So what's the pros and cons of working with family, especially daughters?
Emotion. The pros are...
Be honest now.
Pros are I love her, I trust her. Disadvantages are we tend to do this from time to time.
Right.
But that's a far from
Now, for anybody watching the podcast, he means clash. They clash a lot.
Especially with the Italian in us, yes, definitely there's a lot of clash in there.
So do you think that it helps the father-daughter relationship, or do you think that it creates a bit of stress in the father-daughter relationship? How do you deal with the clashes?
I think it's good. I think we understand each other more now as well. And I think it gives me the extra push, knowing that I actually have 2 partners there I'm responsible for.
Yeah.
And, I want to do, just as well for them as I do for myself.
I guess that can give you a lot of drive to make sure you don't Irish it up.
Absolutely, yeah, a lot of drive. Otherwise you'll come and blame me, so no, it's got to work. And it is working, thank goodness.
What would you say to anybody who's listening to the podcast at the moment thinking, is now a good time to do property? With all the media information out there about the recession, and I read recently an article from the Bank of England where, not the governor of the Bank of England, but one of his sidekicks said that people in the UK should accept that we're poorer. Is now the worst time ever to do property, or the best time ever to do property, or just an okay time to do property? What sort of advice would you give people?
From my tender young age, I worked in two recessions. And I found that in both recessions, there's been some people who have actually made a lot of money out of it. The people that haven't been fearful, the people that have had the right mindset, and the right people behind them. And I think it is a great time to get into property, especially as people are fearful. As the old saying says, be greedy when others are fearful, and fearful when others are greedy.
And do you feel that you could do property anywhere in the country? Does property work everywhere? Because a lot of people will say, I'd love to do property, but I'm in the wrong area.
Yes, it works absolutely anywhere. There are always deals out there, depending on what your strategy is, but it works absolutely everywhere.
Brilliant. So really appreciate you coming on and sharing your journey with us, Vito.
Thank you.
Obviously you've been smashing it so far. This is just the beginning for you, but 20 something plus SA properties, packaging deals on now, doing deals with no money. I can see you going and hitting those goals over the next couple of years and the next few years to come. So really appreciate you coming on and sharing your journey with us. I've been Kevin McDonald. He's been Vito Iannelli. It's not Iannelli, is it?
Iannelli.
That's it. I've been Kevin McDonald. He's been Vito Iannelli. And I'll see you next time. I've been Kevin McDonald. He's been Vito Iannelli. We have been... I confused you. YouTube was so good as well. I'm the one that's all of these up, by the way. And it's always on the exit. So, let's do that again. So, thank you for coming in, Vito, and sharing your journey with us.